Boards and booze, booze and boards, drinks and beers, fight some hordes. Drank too much, forgot our swords, ran back home, filled our gourds, got drunk again, sang some chords. Boards and booze and boards, with Mickey and Jeb. Welcome to Booze and Boards. It's Mickey and Jeb, like normal, because we're the ones who...
Welcome to Booze and Boards.
What? Oh, look, be informal? Yeah, because we don't have any stupid ideas to do. So,
oh, okay.
You gotta be nice. Alright, so today, if you read the name of the episode, we are playing Everdell. And you guys are like, what? That picture? That doesn't look like the picture from the websites where you can order it from. Why is that, Mickey?
This is the Kickstarter version of Everdell. So they come in a nifty little sleeve, which honestly at this point, I don't know if I'm thrilled with sleeves or not. They're kind of a pain. I get that they protect the box a little bit, but then if you're worried about protecting the box, then you're probably worried about protecting the sleeve.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, it's just a pain to take on and off the box.
Right.
The artwork's kind of cool on it, but I don't know. Give me a different stretch goal or something.
Right.
Whatever. That's an aside.
So Mickey was the one who backed it.
Yes.
So.
I backed it.
And you got it, what, a couple days ago? A few days ago? A week ago? Something like that? Pretty close to when it shipped out.
As of this recording, I haven't had it that long. Something like a week. Yeah, so it's 1 to 4 players, ages 13 plus. That maybe could go a little lower. It is relatively, I would say it's relatively complex. I mean, not super complex, but there's a lot of reading and a lot of strategy. So,
and a lot of stuff that interacts.
And a lot of stuff that interacts and all that kind of thing.
I mean, it says 40 to 80 minutes. And I could see that because we played a 2-player and it went a good
amount of time. Now, granted, we don't know any of the cards by heart or anything like that, so there's a lot of first game. I got to read everything, and then I got to read everything on the field, and then I got to read everything on my opponent's side of the field, and all that kind of stuff. So, that being said, that's probably a fair amount of range, particularly when you get to know the game. And let's see,
James A. Wilson.
And do we have a publisher?
I do not see one. Maybe it's self-published?
Could be. They'll say...
oh, right there. What is that?
My box says Collector's Edition.
Oh, him and his box.
Starling Games.
Starling Games.
So, that's the publisher, and...
The game itself, worker placement-ish?
Worker placement. Now that... So, after reading the rules and things like that, and after playing it, I feel like this game is a mashup between Stone Age and Imperial Settlers. And
when he said that, I was like, well, I'm curious to see how it works. And then when we played it, I was like, yes, that's a really good way to describe it.
2 games that I really like. So, in true Mickey fashion, it was one of those games that I was like, I like the art. It's kind of cute little critters.
Oh, there's no archer on the front.
No, there is no archer, but I did like the art and the fact that it was, I do like worker placement games a lot. I actually didn't, when I read the Kickstarter, I didn't realize that it was pretty much a combination of those. I just was kind of like, oh, that looks kind of unique, and I like the critters and all that kind of stuff. So that's why, that's one of the reasons I hopped on board. The Kickstarter, hit a bunch of stretch goals that they gave. I don't know which ones are making it to the retail and which ones aren't or anything like that.
Yeah, because it looks like the coins were upgraded.
So I got the regular coins and metal coins. I have, what are those things called?
Occupy token.
Okay, so the Occupy tokens, which you'll see in a minute, they were upgraded to wood. Some extra cards and an expansion critters or something like that.
I think when I was looking at the Kickstarter page, all the resources were actually upgraded to like actually look like the things and be like 3-dimensional.
Yeah, so I don't know if the retail version is just going to have plain cubes,
Right.
which it might. With all the stuff that they did, it really looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, so I guess we can start showing you how it looks if we start going through components.
Yeah, we should probably do that so they can actually see the stuff, right?
Was there anything else that you needed to say about it?
Not that I can think of. Worker placement, and it was a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
That was about it for my brain. So.
All right, so we'll be right back, and we'll show you the components. And if we've held your interest even a little bit, check out these components because it really is cool.
All right, so we are back with components for Everdell. The first thing for components is the board.
Is that the whole board, Jeb?
No, it's not.
Oh, here comes the surprise. If you haven't seen it, this is so cool. Dun, dun, dun. It's the Evertree. And the Evertree slides right over the trunk part, right up against the board.
It's a little bit anticlimactic because they can't see it all.
Well, that's because
so
you
let's
messed
pull
up
the whole
camera.
thing down.
Boom.
All right.
There.
It's even taller than that. So
oh, wow.
They still can't see the top part.
Well, anyways, there's a tree.
Whatever.
But you're gonna.
We'll fix it for when we play the game so you can see it all.
Okay.
Actually, we could probably just be like, hey, look at this. That's what it looks like. So, all right. So there's the board and the tree. For the tree, it actually is some pictures up here for spring, summer, and autumn as a reminder. We'll talk about those later. And then on the board, there is the tree trunk where you place the tree. There's some events that are on here we'll go over. The river really doesn't do much. You place all the resources there. There's some places to put stuff. I don't know how detailed we should go into all that.
Well, we're gonna talk about it later.
Right, so you want to take the board off?
All right, so that's the board and the cool tree.
All right, next up is the event tiles.
All right, so those are the event tiles. There are four of those, and that's it.
Yeah.
I was gonna start talking about them, but we're gonna talk about them more during gameplay and setup.
Oh. There's actually a D8, which we have in the box. Oh, no, here we go, right there.
That's for solo play. So
Yep, so
we're not going to go into solo rules.
the tokens, there are point tokens and occupied tokens.
Alright, so point tokens basically look like gold pieces, and Jeb's going to show you the upgrades that came with Kickstarter, which actually are really nice looking.
Yep.
So you have 3s and 1s, and then the same over here, 3s and 1s.
It's kind of hard to see the numbers, but the size difference
Yeah.
is how you'll remember. And then the occupy tokens. So Mickey
Those
has the
wooden
cardboard ones. These are
Okay.
wooden. And these actually came with stickers that you had to stick the little doors on. Next up are the cards.
Okay, so well, it doesn't matter. So in the base game, there are the main cards. This is the main deck of cards, and there's 2 types of cards in here: critters and construction. 128 of these.
Do you want to flip over some so they can
No, I don't, Jim.
at least tell the difference between them?
That is the theater,
It says underneath it construction. so-
right? And then there's a monk.
And under it says critter. And some of the big differences is like the constructions will have little pictures in the bottom right with the pictures of creatures
And
that they're associated
they usually
with.
have a resource cost up here too.
And then
The
for
critters just have a berry cost.
Yep, and they have a construction in the top left that they're associated with. So.
Okay, so like I said, you got 128 of those cards.
Then there are the forest cards.
So this is basically one of the things that makes the game a little bit different each time, because these come out randomly, and there's there's a pretty decent amount.
And then the special event cards.
Same with these. only 4 of these come out in a game, so that randomizes it a bit also.
Alright, then for the tokens, there are 4 different resources. So we've got twigs,
which they made look like little logs, which is really kind of cool.
and then it's resin is the name of it, but I always call it the orange stuff.
They look like orange crystals.
Yep. And then the pebbles
Look like pebbles.
and the berries, which these do not slide as easy as those because they are actually rubbery.
Yeah, they're actually like the texture of them is actually really
Yeah.
cool. They're not like hard plastic. They're a little bit squishy, not real squishy, but a little bit squishy.
And there are the workers. So these are since it's a worker placement, whatever color you are.
Yeah, these are basically your figures in the game. So these came out really cool too. So the blue guys is a turtle, and the white is a what is that, a rabbit? Oh, that's a mouse, sorry. And
You got the squirrel is
and
red.
a squirrel, and it looks like a porcupine.
And then I think that's a kangaroo for black.
That's odd that there's a kangaroo, but
Maybe it's some kind of mouse thing? I don't know.
that actually looks like the mouse. You
More
sure
than
this isn't a rabbit?
I don't know. I don't know animals.
Okay, well anyways.
And then the last...
They're really cool.
Yes. The last thing that I have written down is the victory card, which we didn't really use. It's just a card that says victory.
You won.
Right?
I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you don't get to do anything with it. And just because Jeb said it, there's the victory card, which says, "Time to celebrate. Here's to the builder of the greatest city of all in Everdell." And this says, "Erect a memorial of your victory. Take a selfie with the other side of this card and share it with us on Twitter and Facebook."
No, we can do that.
I can.
Ooh. But I'll be the one uploading it. I'm going to Photoshop it.
Ooh.
Alright, so that's everything for components, so we will come back with setup.
We are now going to go over the setup of Everdell.
Alright, so the first thing is to place the board on the table, which we did, so you can see the whole board.
And the magic tree. Evertree.
And then you should be able to see all the trees.
Oh, just as a note, guys,
Oh, no.
so this thing obviously doesn't fit in the box. You put it together. The only part that I found tricky was this little bit here. So if you haven't set it, if you buy the game and you haven't set it up, just as an aside, what you want to do is you really want to tilt this to one side and then take it on and off like that, because if you try to go straight down, it doesn't work right. The other one does seem to go do the straight down method okay. So anyways, like I said, that's just a little trick that I struggled with before. I was like, oh, tilt it this way, and it slips on much easier.
Alright, so after you place those, the next thing is to place all the resources along the riverbank. So
it's probably hard to see, but
yeah, there's some
twigs
in
in the water.
There's a berry bush tree thing over here. And then for the stones, there's a little quarry. And for the orange stuff, there's some orange stuff in the sand.
So those are all placed along the river, like Jeb said, in their appropriate spots.
And you're going to put the point and occupied tokens on the side of the board. So we've got them over here, but we'll just leave them off the camera. But there's all the coins and the occupied tokens. I'll pull them in when
you need them. So that's basically the bank, reserve, supply, whatever you want to call it.
Yep. Then you are going to shuffle forest cards and place on the forest clearings. So to explain that, these are the forest clearings, these
and
4 spots.
The back of the card that you're placing have forest clearings. So shuffle the forest clearings.
And this is one of the things Mickey was talking about, how it's going to be random every game.
Right.
Because there's, what, 11 of them or something?
Something like that. And for 2 players, we are playing...
There's 3 of them. And then for 3 and 4 players...
You fill all of them.
Yep.
Alright, so we are going to place one here. And one here. And one over there on Jeb's side.
Right. After that, you are going to place 4 basic event tiles along the river. So that's these guys.
Right, and they actually have their own spot that they go with. So the boat goes with the Grand Tour. And the, what is that, like a circus tent?
Yep.
That goes over on that side.
Did I do this wrong?
Pretty sure.
Yeah, that's goes C, right?
Yep. And then the monument goes on the monument.
And you want to keep the...
and what is the other one? The Harvest Festival.
Cartographer's Expedition.
Which is a what?
Looks like some little huts on wheels.
Okay, so there isn't... You have to look in the book to, like, probably the first time to know where these go. But after you've played, they make sense. So the monument, there's a monument. The tour, the boat goes on a tour. The festival, there's a tent. And then the expedition, there's stuff that looks like it's, you know, going on a expedition.
And you want to, like, on the board, there's a thing, like, for this it says 4 and this green symbol, and it says Harvest Festival event. You don't want to cover it up, because that's how you know how you, during gameplay. So leave that stuff uncovered.
Right.
Alright, after that you are going to shuffle and place 4 special events on the lower branches of the tree.
Okay, so there's tree branches on the back of these cards. Another set that is randomized every game, so that you will have different special events. So remember, normal events or basic events, and here are the special ones that we are going to place on the tree limbs. And of course, they could have made this whole board flat if they wanted to, but it really is kind of neat seeing having the 3-dimensional stuff. So the forest clearing cards and the tree branch cards are now, the rest of them can go right back into the box.
Next up is to shuffle the main deck and place 8 cards in the meadow face up.
In the meadow, if you haven't figured it out yet, is the big grassy area right in the front.
And it says meadow right there.
And it says meadow right there. There's that.
And make sure to shuffle your cards on the first play.
Oh, on the first play, pile shuffle, rifle shuffle, just shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Because they were pretty clumped on the first playthrough. So, there's 1, and there's 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8. Now, I don't believe we duplicated 1 this time.
Wow.
That's impressive. Alright, and then...
It says that the players are going to draw cards, but it kind of depends on who's first player, so just quickly decide first player, and I'll let Mickey be first player. So, first player gets to draw 5 cards, second player gets 6, third gets 7, and fourth gets 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's Jeb's card.
And then, where are you going to put that big deck at, Mickey?
In the Evertree!
So I thought that was pretty cool that
it fits right in there.
Yep. Alright, and then after that, you are going to place, or you give everybody 2 workers, and you're going to place the excess workers on the top branch of the tree in a specific order.
Alright, so I am taking...
I've got 2 white guys.
Taking the blue turtles.
The rabbits or whatever they are.
And then I place 1 in the spring.
So it says spring, summer, autumn, so we both place 1 in spring.
And then we both place 1 in the summer. And then we place our last 2 in autumn.
And then after that, you are ready to begin. Alright, so let's get into gameplay. This game goes clockwise turns, and on your turn you just do one action. So since it's 2 players that we're going to do, it just is going to go back and forth.
Until you can't.
Until you run, you can't do anything.
Basically until you can't do anything, and it's tough to explain because it's almost like there's not even rounds in this game the way they set it up.
Right.
You have a personal round.
Yeah, because in other worker placements you kind of wait till everybody catches up to a certain point before it resets. But
When you're done, you get to keep going in this game.
Yep. And you'll see it when we explain it. So on your turn, there's three actions that you can choose from. The first is to place a worker, the second is to play a card, and the third is to prepare for season. So let's start with placing a worker.
Okay. So on the board and on some cards, there are places where you can place the workers. So there are paw prints on the board. There's actually some paw prints on cards, and
but you can't place them when they're in the middle.
Yeah, this is this is a market. So, but when they're in play,
yeah,
you can use them. This is for end game only.
There's one over here,
and there's a space over here, plus all the
4
cards that we've done. All the events have a paw print you can put them on, and as do the basic events.
Yep.
Okay. So
there's 2 different types of paw prints.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that has a complete outline around it, and then there's one that have a partial outline.
Right. It has a big open bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. Because even these ones that are fully circled, they like.
Yeah, there's a little.
Did fancy art on them, so they almost look like they're open a tiny bit.
Yeah.
The ones that are like the whole bottom is not part of the circle. Those are the ones that you can. That are what are they called? Open.
One's exclusive, and the other is shared.
Right.
So exclusive is the
shut ones,
yep,
and shared is the open bottom ones.
Yep. So placing a worker, like Mickey said, you pick one of the spots and you put your worker on it. And at this point, we probably need to explain all the different spots on the board, right?
I think that's a good idea.
All right. So the first set are basic actions. And these are what you use to acquire resources.
Alright, so your basic actions are all along the river. And so the first space here is a exclusive. If you place a worker there, you take three twigs.
And there's a little sign next to it that has the 3 twigs.
Right, so you know exactly what you get when you place something there.
Yep.
The second spot is shared, 2 pieces of twig, and you get to draw a card. There's a picture of a card. The next space along the river is exclusive, and you gain 2 resin. The next one is shared, 1 resin, 1 card.
This one is 2 cards and 1 gold piece. This one's 1 stone. This is 1 berry and a card, and this is just 1 berry.
Just so you're not confused, when Jeb says gold piece, that's a victory point.
Oh yes, sorry.
Because there is no, that gold is not like an economy. It's not a currency in the game.
I just call it gold.
I know, because it looks like a gold coin, but it really is a victory point. It has, like, you can't spend them on anything.
Right. So those are the basic actions. The next set of actions are the forest actions.
This is where we put in the empty forest spaces we populated with cards. There are, you'll notice that all the cards have 2 spots, but this one over here, you probably can't read it from the camera, has a little 4 inside of it. So this second spot on these cards is only available if you have a 4-player game. Otherwise, it's here. I have no idea if any of these cards have shared spots, but this is exclusive, and that over there is an exclusive.
And one thing, in a 4-player game, you're not able to put both of your workers on the same card.
So, like in a 4-player game, I can't go like that. Right. Otherwise, you can double up over on the shared stuff if you want to.
Right. All right, next up are the destinations, which are cards in your city. So if, say, Mickey, we haven't talked about it yet, but when you build cards, you build a city. And for example, the card in front of Mickey now, he could place a worker on it if he wanted to.
Right. So just for example purposes, once this was in somebody's city, this is open. This one actually has a lock on it and doesn't get unlocked until the requirement of the lock is met. And in this particular case, it says the monk has to be there too. Okay. And actually, if you were to, Jeb and I know the card. So actually, if you read the monk card, it says also opens the second spot on the monastery. So there's two reminders that both of these aren't open until the monastery and the monk are in play. But so for instance, if this was sitting here and you played a person on it, you would give 2 of any resource to an opponent to gain 4 victory points.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And the one thing to note about these is if Mickey had it in front of him, he can only place only he can place on it unless there is a little sign like on the picture that says open. Like it's like a little wooden sign. It says open. There's a gold coin above it. And if it's open, then that means opponents can place their workers on it. And when they do, I don't know if they can see it, but it's right there. It says open and 1. When an opponent places on an open location in your place, you get a gold coin, or you get a victory point, and they get the effect.
Right.
Next up are the events, and they have spaces that you can place on. So let's go over the basic events.
Okay, basic events are all the ones along the river. So there are different. So all the cards have a different type, all right?
Yep.
So these events are based on types of cards. So for instance, the Monument event has a 3 by the Governance type card. So once you have 3 or more Governance cards in your city, which is represented by the little scroll symbol, so like that's a Governance card. Once there's 3 in your city, if you want to, you can place a worker on that event, and then you bring it over to the side of your city. So you've claimed that event, now nobody else can claim it.
Right.
And it's worth whatever the victory points at the end of the game.
They all are 3, so. The boat has the paw print. You need 3 of them. The Harvest Festival is 4 of the leaf, and the expedition is 3 of the little, what are they called? The things hobos have.
Those are
knapsacks.
Those are traveler.
Yeah.
That's the traveler symbol, and the plant is the production symbol. The paw print is the destination symbol, and as I said before, the scroll is the governance symbol. The only symbol that's not on here is called the prosperity symbol, and that is a purple one with a flower.
Yep.
Alright?
Alright, and then the special events are the ones that are up here, and at the top of the card it says what you need in your city to be able to place your worker on it, and then underneath it has the effect, and you actually take the entire card and put it next to your city.
And leave the guy up on the tree.
Yep.
So if that didn't make sense, this card has on the top, it says monk, dungeon. So I have to have the monk and the dungeon in my city to be able to place on this card. So if I do, put the critter up there, and I take the card and put it to the side of my city so that I have it for end game purposes. Okay?
And then the next place is the Haven, which is down here on the board. And here, when you place a worker, it says you can discard as many cards from your hand as you want. And for every 2 that you discard, you can gain a resource, any resource that you want. So if you discard 2 cards, you get 1 resource of whatever you want. 4, you get 2 resources. You get it. And then the last space is the journey space, which you can only place workers on it in the autumn.
Yep.
And when you place a worker on there are victory points next to each one of them. These 3 are exclusive. This is shared.
Right.
When you place your worker, you have to discard cards equal to the number of victory points to be able to place onto that spot.
Right.
And that is victory points for end game, right?
Right. So there's a reminder for what Jeb said about it only being in autumn. And let's say it's Jeb's turn. He knows that he's almost out of things to do. He's got 5 cards in his hand. He could discard 5 cards and steal that space, and then nobody else can get that.
Right. All right, so that's everything for placing workers. So the other action you can do is play a card.
Okay, so there are some mechanics in this game if you have played Imperial Settlers, some of this stuff is going to is going to seem familiar. All right. So first of all, there are 2 types of cards. There are location cards,
Constructions and critters.
Constructions and critters. So it's hard to tell what's what without looking under it until you get used to seeing some of the things that trigger it. Like, for instance, which we've said before, critters usually cost berries, and constructions always cost some type of those types of materials. Okay, even though they're all resources. So, in this case, like, this is a critter, and this is a critter.
These are
and
critters.
This is construction, and a construction.
Yep.
All right. So, in order to play a card, it can come from either your hand, or it can come from, I'll call it the meadow. So the meadow is sort of like a marketplace, but it's also kind of sort of like your hand.
Yeah, you don't.
It's like a shared. It's like a shared. Right. It's like a shared hand,
right,
open all the time. Okay, so on my turn, I would look at the cost, and then I would pay the resources, whether it's berries. In this case, to build a monastery, it'd be 1 piece of wood, 1 resin, and 1 pebble. And then I would place it into my city, and if it had any immediate effects, such as the production cards, I would be able to do that right away. Otherwise, I might have to wait for the effect when it triggers sometime in the future.
Yep.
Let's say, for instance, that I already have built the inn, and I have it in my city. Since I have the inn, and if we take a look at this top left-hand corner of the badger, it says inn. If I already have the building and it matches what's in that top left corner, I can build that critter for free.
Yep.
Or place that critter for free. Play it, I guess, is the proper terminology. So if it was my turn and Jeb didn't take him, I don't have to spend anything, and I played a card for the turn.
The one thing when you do that, when you place it for free, you are going to put one of the occupied tokens into the bottom right corner of the location, and that means you can't use it to bring in that character again for free, because there are multiples of characters.
Right, and if you know the cards, there's also unique and common cards. Yeah. You can only have one type of unique. You can't have multiple of the same unique card in your city. Right. So, for instance, my inn is a common construction. However, the innkeeper, which I just did for free, is a unique critter.
So you wouldn't be able to play any more innkeepers.
Right. And I can't do any more for free either. So there are multiple innkeepers. But there are some things that can get rid of a card. Yep. But even if I got rid of the innkeeper, I already used the power of the inn. Yep. So I'm not going to get to do it again.
All right. One thing we should talk about is your city. It is...
If you play a card from the center, you refill it.
Yes, if you do play a card in the meadow, you instantly refill it. Everybody, they have a city that is going to be 15 spaces. So once you fill that up, you can't have anything more than 15. Right?
Typical layout is a 5x3 city. we're trying to squish everything into the camera. So after playing it, my recommendation would probably be slide this to the top of your table. Everybody else sit like so that you're not smushed up against this because it's kind of wide.
We're probably going to be doing 2x7s
Something
with
like
one
that,
on the side.
right?
All right, and then the last thing about cards is when you draw cards, you draw from the deck unless otherwise said, because there are cards that say draw from the meadow.
Yeah.
You have a hand limit of 8 cards, and in this game you can never draw over 8. Some games is like if you draw cards and you have more than 8, you discard down. This literally says you can never have more than 8. So if you would draw like a 9th card, it actually just gets discarded.
Like you don't even have a choice.
Right.
You don't get to put it in your hand and get rid of a cruddy card.
Right.
It's awful.
And then if you ever draw multiple from the meadow, you draw them all first and then you refill them. You don't draw one refill, draw one refill. So.
And what Jeb is saying is like there could be a some kind of ability or card that lets you take multiples. So in that case, you have to finish the entire action, then refill.
Yes. And that's everything for cards. So the last action you can take is prepare for season. And you can only take this action when all your workers have been placed on the board. And when you take this action, what you do is you bring back all your workers from the board. And then you look up here at the top and see what season you're in, or you're going to, I guess. Starting the game, the first time you take the prepare for season action, it's going to be into the spring. So you look at the spring, and there's a picture of +1 worker, and then the green thing, what is that called? Production. So what that means is, when you take that, you get to take your worker from up here, and put it in your supply. And then any cards that have production on them in your city, you get to activate them. The next one is summer. So when you do your second prepare for season, summer gives you your worker that's up here, and then it says draw 2 cards from the meadow. So you would draw 2 from the meadow, and then after you draw them, you'd replace them. And then your last prepare for season is for autumn. You are going to get 2 meeples from up here, and then activate all your production cards again. Let's talk about the end of the game. So the game ends when you can no longer perform actions. When you can't perform any actions, you just pass, and then you're out of the game.
And that's at the very end.
Yes.
Don't get that confused. So just to recap real quick. So I took this spot, and I took that spot, and then
you can't do anything else right now.
And I have no cards that work. I have no more resources to spend. I can't buy any cards. I can't play anything from my hand. I just don't have anything I can do or want to do. At that point is when I take my next turn is going to be prepare for season. So that's when I take my figures back. I take this, trigger whatever part of the tree I'm on, and then it's Jeb's turn again.
Yep.
Or whoever is next in clockwise order. This is what we were talking about earlier where it's different from other games. I do not wait for Jeb to declare his season. I keep playing.
So Mickey could be halfway through summer before I even get to summer.
Right.
So
it's probably unlikely. I mean, it's probably, although...
When we played it, in the beginning, we kind of went...
It staggered a little bit, like, after the first one.
Yeah, we did the spring one kind of together.
Right,
and
pretty
then
close,
the summer was split, and then autumn was a little split.
Yeah.
When all players are done, then you're going to count your victory points. So when you're counting victory points, you're going to look at all the cards in your city, and you look at the victory points on the cards. And you count those up, and then any
so
effects.
any yellow circle with a number in it is an end game victory point.
Yep.
Okay, and a physical victory point
is a victory.
Right.
Point.
So just so you're not confused, when you place one of these in the city, that is not, you don't get that. That's just inherently yours at the end of the end of the game. So you're not trying to take all those metal ones. Those are for
whenever something generates it.
Generates it, exactly. Then put it over in your personal supply so that you have it to look at the end of the game when you're totaling everything up.
And the tiebreaker is that if you have more events than the other person, you win. And if there's still a tie, then you count your leftover resources. One thing to note is that when you are out of the game, I think anything that affects you, like it
doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. And I believe
that's similar to a round in Imperial Settlers. Once you declared you were done with a round, nobody could touch you. But this one would be when you were done with the game.
Yep.
But other than that, that pretty much covers it. And Jeb and I will show you guys a
Two-player game
two-player game of Everdell.